Captain Bill and Tommy too. Adventures waiting just for you.
Good morning and happy Wednesday. For those of you that are new, welcome. And for those of you returning, welcome back to the Fork and Thrust Talk Show, episode number 40, Choose Your Poison. My name is Bill, or as many of you know me, I am Captain Bill Official. I am a captain on the Boeing 737 for a major U.S. airline. And joining me today is my fellow founder of the Three Green Simulations Group, flight sim extraordinaire and retired New York City EMT, Tommy D of Level Flight Simulations. Today we have a wonderful episode for you. As you can probably tell, I am wearing my Halloween costume. This is our Halloween episode. And as you could probably tell, I am a huge fan of Halloween. And if you're too young to understand what this is, I'm sorry, this is Shrek. So get out of my swamp. That's what I'm going to be telling the kids in a couple days. But anyways, Tommy D, how are you doing today, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing really, really well. Really, really well. How about yourself?
I am doing great. Super happy this morning because I got approval from TikTok to utilize a stream key, which is huge. So now we're actually live on TikTok as well, in vertical setup, which is perfect because we've always talked about it. Having to be able to go live on multiple platforms, specifically TikTok, is because that's where our biggest presence is. To be able to share it there versus hey, just go to Spotify afterwards is huge. So I'm excited to do this. Eventually, hopefully, going to try to get it to the Torque and Thrust Talk Show TikTok side, but for now, it's going to be off my platform right now. So, or off my Captain Bill page. But overall, not too bad. It is cold. It is rainy. The allergies are kicking in here in the Midwest. But before I go too much into it, how about we do our weekly debrief? So for those of you that are new, our weekly debrief is every week Tommy and I talk about our week. We just talk about what went well, and what could have gone better. So Tommy D, why don't you take it away?
Oh, great, thanks. So this week I was notified that instead of my 3-day work schedule, I go back starting tonight back to a 4-day work schedule, which my contract has the words as business needs, but this will be the last time that they swap my schedule around, and it's only because of the dynamics of where I work. It's fine. The 12-hour shifts, I was kind of sick of them, even though I only did them for a month, but that's that. We had the grandsons over for a couple days this week. I'll put some pictures in our Discord, but Sunday we went up to one of our local farms. They do a big harvest thing. We had an absolute blast. They were in their costumes. Silas is a little dinosaur. I was like, it's a dinosaur. He's a T-Rex. He's a T-Rex. Well, come to find out, I was completely wrong. He's a dragon because he had the little wings under his arms. And then, yeah, yeah. And then, Zakai was a pumpkin, and he doesn't like hats. And I was so surprised that the entire time we were all up there that he wore the little beret, the little orange beret that looked like the top of a pumpkin. And they were like the hit of the farm that day. It was hysterical. The only thing that stunk was I had to leave to go to work on Saturday. But Zakai, I was holding him when we got to the apple orchard because you could actually go pick apples. They have a massive orchard with pretty much every apple you can think of. And I was holding him, and it was just like perfect height for him to grab it. And he's tugging on it, and when he's doing something, he makes little noises, like, so he's, the little struggle noise. He's going, and I'm like, oh, do it up, kid. Grampy ain't doing it for you. And he finally gets it off, and he's all proud of himself. And we set a world record from tree to his mouth in 2.1 seconds flat. Took that first big Honey Crisp crunch bite. I was hysterical. And other than that, working, I am in the process of porting everything over to Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. I am about 90% complete there. I got my radio stack working now. I got the VATS and model matching working. And aside from that, we picked up nine bags of leaves from our backyard yesterday. It took us about an hour. But the same as it is here, that it is for Bill. It got super cold super quick. Like, we're seeing highs 50 to 55, which is fine for me. But yesterday morning, when the boys were leaving, Kim left with them at about 7:30, and I was carrying one of them out to the car seat, and I walked in and put a sweatshirt on. I never walk in and put a sweatshirt, and I looked, it was 31 degrees. I'm like, "Yep, too soon, too soon."
Yeah,
And
that's
then
getting a little well, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
yeah,
Go
no, no,
ahead.
no, you're good, 'cause that I'm, like, right at the end of it, and it's funny because at work, I just see all the Christmas stuff rolling in now,
Yep.
like, for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, and we can talk about that'll probably be another discussion because um like our local stores in was it September or just after July 4th, there I see Halloween. And before October even starts, I'm seeing Christmas stuff at Lowe's.
Yeah, same here.
And it just blows my mind that we're just steamrolling all over. And I guess I don't know if it's because online shopping, a lot of people are like buying stuff well ahead of the holidays to be prepared for it. And so they're just having the stuff in stock. Or if they're, I honestly feel like they're just trying to eliminate the smaller holidays and are focusing on the money makers like Christmas to try to get more inventory in that way. So I'm not
I
sure.
believe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, because
It's a little bit of both.
and my poor wife, anytime I walk into Walmart and I see Christmas in September, I that's one thing that irritates me. It's like you cannot steamroll the holidays. This is the best time of year because we have Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas and New Year's. We can't steamroll every single holiday just to go to Christmas.
Yeah, it drives me up the wall as well. You walk in and, this is gonna be our first Christmas in this apartment, so
Hmm.
we are gonna decorate
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
whatnot, but we don't have a regular Christmas tree.
Oh.
When we were living upstairs, we only had that little 3-foot, pull it out of the box, plug it in, decorated Christmas tree with, like, the little fiber optic branches and
Yeah.
stuff like
Hmm.
that for the lights, and it was super simple. It'd literally take him, like, an hour to Christmas decorate the entire apartment. Here, we'll get, like, a smaller tree and,
Hmm.
we'll talk about it when it comes closer to Christmas, but we'll see. We'll see how
Yeah.
it
We got the
goes.
yeah we got that coming. That's coming up quick. We got Halloween a couple days away, and then it's off to Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. So it's this year's gone by
Yeah,
pretty quick.
'cause yeah, it's you know what? And I'm pretty sure we said this at the same time last year.
Yeah.
It
Oh yeah.
doesn't it definitely doesn't slow down.
No, it
It
just keeps getting faster and faster and faster. But thanks for your updates, Tommy D. Um, my updates are a lot of things have gone good. Obviously, I'm home for Halloween, so that is a big one. I'm a huge. That's my favorite holiday. My holiday is Halloween. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's just I don't know. I just love Halloween. I love the kids getting dressed up. I love getting dressed up. Obviously, on my Shrek get up. But there's just something so nice and festive about Halloween. Especially the candy. I love handing out candy to kids. That's like my big thing is this year I'm home and my wife's like, well, we were supposed to go trick or treating with my sister in law and nephew. And I said, but are we going to be home for trick or treaters? And she's like, oh, that's true. I love handing out candy to trick or treaters. I think it's the coolest thing to see the different costumes and see the kids really enjoy the holiday because maybe it's because I had such a great Halloween experience growing up that it's really nice seeing that through other families, other kids. So that's awesome. Being home. I also got quite a bit of time off, which is great. This weekend, my wife and I are going to a restaurant that I've always wanted to go to. It's about a 2-hour drive away, but basically, it's a little model toy train restaurant that brings your hamburgers and stuff via train and will lower it down to the table for you. I've never been there. I've always wanted to go, so we're taking the time now to be able to go do that because very rarely do I get weekends off. What could have gone better? Well, unfortunately, this last week once again had a great first officer, but unfortunately had a horrible trip. I want to say horrible. It wasn't too bad. So we started off by going to Vegas, um, and then we did Vegas to LA. Was excuse me, which wasn't too bad. And then we did 24 hours in LA, and then we did the red eye from LA to Tampa. Um, that wasn't too bad. The only problem is that in Tampa we had what was called a day over. So rather than getting a full reset, we technically had basically a min rest overnight, 10 hours and 47 minutes of rest time in the middle of the day in Tampa. And then we were supposed to wake up later that night and fly to Newark. Now, unfortunately, due to the ongoing air traffic control staffing issues due to the government shutdown, we experienced quite a delay going out to Newark. Now, I will point out, we talked about it like one of our first episodes with the Torque and Thrust Talk Show. We always talk about the N90 or the New York airspace, one being busy, but there's always staffing issues, even when the government is running normally. So it's only compounding that with the additional weather, with the government shutdown. So we woke up probably like 1 or 2 in the afternoon after arriving in Tampa at 6:30 that morning, to find out that we were delayed. So I immediately contacted scheduling to try to coordinate us staying in the hotel as long as possible for rest reasons. Because we can get adequate rest, but sometimes it's not the best rest coming off what we call a day over. So we were able to coordinate a later shuttle, um, and a departure time from the hotel. But one thing I noticed is our departure time was sliding backwards, or the wheels up time, the delay time. But our actual scheduled departure time that the operations in Tampa were putting on the departure wasn't really changing, which is kind of confusing. For those of you that don't know, there's what's called a long term or long tarmac delay program. So basically, the Department of Transportation for domestic flights says that once the door closes on the airplane, we have 3 hours to get off the ground. If not, we have to return back to the gate and let people off. If not, then it's about a $27,500 fine per passenger. It doesn't go to the passenger, but the company gets fined for not mitigating a long tarmac delay. Um, so between the departure time that Tampa had set and our wheels up time, it was an hour and a half, which is already halfway there. At the 2 hour, at that point, we're already offering egress to the passengers, food and water. And then that's already around the 120-minute mark is when we start already trying to coordinate back to the gate. So my plan was, since it was holding at 9:30, was to board at 9. That gives us 30 minutes to get off the gate, and that's if it moves up, we can make it. But if it moves back, we're not kind of in a tight corner for the long-term delay, right? I walk up to the gate. They're already boarding the aircraft. No coordination with me whatsoever as the captain. So I assumed it's because they needed gate space. So, I checked in with the gate agent and said, hey, what's the plan? Did operations communicate something to you all? They said they needed the gate by the X time. I said, okay. I will double check with dispatch because I don't know if that's going to work. And I always include dispatch in this conversation because they have a direct line to the National Air Traffic Control Command Center in Washington, D.C. So they can get a better idea if that delay is going to move back, if it's going to move up, or if, in general, if it's a good idea. They have a huge operational picture. I have the operational picture in Tampa and Newark. So I get down there. And then I also find out that I have 7 flight attendants on board, which is over the amount that I need for the airplane that we were flying. But the primary reason they did that is 3 of the flight attendants were close to timing out from their duty day because they have flight duty appearance like we do as pilots, which is another thing that you throw into the mix there. So when I got down there, operations saying, hey, we need the gate at 8:25, which I checked the schedule. I wasn't sure. They kept saying they needed the gate, which usually means there's another aircraft scheduled to come in. Using all the resources I had available to me, which is some pretty good information, I honestly couldn't find and never did find an airplane that was scheduled for that flight at that time. The next flight that was scheduled to hit that gate was the red eye again in 8 hours. What I suspect was happening is they were trying to close the boarding door to make sure the flight attendants didn't time out, um, which which was kind of another issue because it's not like we were just closing the door late and then getting off the ground. It's they would be on their flight duty period, shut the door, and then go another hour and a half without actually leaving the ground, moving towards Newark. So that was another discussion. I had that discussion with my flight attendants, because they're crew. So I said, you just let me know what you want to do, because if your fitness for duty is going to be in question, we already have a fresh crew in the back that's already working the 4. So we need to coordinate that earlier rather than later. One thing that we're not going to be doing is dragging our feet to try to delay closing the door so you time out. But if we can get the door closed in a reasonable amount of time without being rushed, then are you guys good to go? And we were like, yeah, that was the plan. So we're sitting there about 5 minutes before they time out. I tell the gate agent, hey, I'm good to close up here. Double check with my purser, who's the number one flight attendant. And I say, I always do that because if they need something last minute, I trust them to be like, yeah, we're good. Let's close the door. So that's good communication between the flight deck and the cabin. So I give that about 5 minutes before they're supposed to time out without the door closed. And about a minute later, they came up, the flight attendants that were going to time out. And I believe they said that scheduling had pulled them off and had put the other four that weren't at risk of timing out working the flight. So they gathered their bags, they got off. I rebriefed the new purser, closed the door, and then we went and sat for about an hour, hour 15 to take off. And then we were late into Newark, which was unfortunate, about 11 p.m. at night. The only nice thing, and I sent Tommy D a picture of this, is we went from the short layover in Newark to the long layover, which means we spent our night just outside of Times Square, which was nice. But the unfortunate part about that is my first officer and I were both commuters. I was lucky enough, I was positive space or I had a ticket on the last flight out that I was going to make that day. But unfortunately, my first officer, we arrived then after his flight home. But luckily, there is a caveat in the contract that allows, in a situation like that, the company was able to provide him a positive space ticket and a flight or and a hotel that night, so he could travel home the next day. So it worked out. He got home a day later than he was supposed to, but it worked out because we were able to get him a hotel and stuff via our contract, which is negotiated by our union. So it was a very long trip. There was a lot of operational issues that we ran into, and a lot of, I guess, cross wires. Communication is extremely important, especially in scenarios like that. And I felt there was a couple times where the the communication wasn't on point. Both, there was times where I felt like I wasn't being heard by like operations. For example, they said, "Hey, we need you off the gate," and I've told them, I said, "Okay, I hear you. I understand you need to get off the gate, but I need to contact dispatch. Like, I need all the information because if push comes to shove, if they think that 10 p.m. or that 9:30 p.m. wheels up time is going to move back, we're staying on the gate. I know you need the gate space, but that supersedes the need for this gate space because if we push back and it's going to go and wait an hour and a half, and then it has a potential to move back even further, we are really risking an hour and a, or the $27,500 fine per passenger. And then on top of that, if you're having issues finding gate space now, if I'm off the gate and having to return because of that delay program by the Department of Transportation, and there's no gate space now that you're having trouble with, will I have a guaranteed gate space to get back on? So there's a lot of things that go through my head. Not my first rodeo. I've dealt with like delays throughout my career like this. Um, but I had to say that multiple times, to be like, hey, I understand what you're saying, but I need to contact my sources and verify this is a sound decision because the way it works is the captain has final say on the operation of the aircraft. So if I say we're sitting on the gate for another, 2 hours until we get a solid wheels up time, that's what's supposed to happen. And per our manual, they're supposed to support my decision. But there was a lot of cross wires with that and a lot of re-communicating to ensure everybody was on the same page. Ultimately, we got the mission done. Everything worked out. But it was just chaotic getting to that point. And I was telling my first officer the next day, I kind of lost sleep over it a little bit, in New York, because regardless of the miscommunications or the plan and so on and so forth, um, any failure of that scenario is a reflection of me as a captain. So I always take those seriously. And my overnight in New York and Times Square, I spent some time walking around Times Square, really kind of reflecting and trying to figure out what I could have done better in that instance. I mean, it worked out great. We didn't bump up any times. We actually ended up off the gate around like 8:30, something like that, which is pretty close to the time that they needed the gate for. But it was kind of chaotic getting to that point. Another thing that could have gone better this week is because of the sudden change in weather, like Tommy was talking about in Pennsylvania, it happened here too. My wife and I get allergies when that happens because you go from 80 and sunny to 55 cold and rainy, triggers the allergies. My wife is pregnant with our kiddo. That's why I'm rocking my dad mug today. So my wife was feeling a little under weather, and she noticed that the she noticed a decrease in fetal movement. Which for those of you that have been pregnant, know that's usually a hey, you guys need to come in, just to double check kiddo. And so she contacted the doctor, and they said, yeah, go ahead and come in to labor and delivery. We'll put a monitor on you, make sure kiddo's okay. Um, and of course, that scared the living daylights out of me. So we were there, and my kiddo is only like just shy of 24 weeks. So she's still tiny. And the nurse said, "Hey, I'm going to put the heart monitor on your wife for the kiddo, but it may take a while to find a heartbeat." And for me, it was taking too long, and I got scared for a second, right? And I'm just like, um, "Okay, why aren't you finding it?" And then they found it. She's fine, perfect heartbeat. They just figure that because my wife's not feeling well, that kiddo has less energy, and also because of the cold weather, the lack of circulation or less circulation, I should say, to the womb, stuff like that. So she's fine. Bottom line, I just had a small heart attack in that room because I was afraid about when they weren't finding her heartbeat. But good news is. Kiddo is moving around. What my wife keeps sending me text updates because we keep track of all this stuff to in her little journal to make sure that we're keeping track of movements and regularity patterns and stuff like that. And I just got a text message from my wife probably about an hour ago as she was going to work that she felt our daughter move. So everything's in the good, but that was kind of a scare that I didn't need this week. And not to mention I'm exhausted. That last trip I just talked about, I am so exhausted and currently trying to catch up on sleep because of how exhausting the last trip was. Sorry, my my thing was a little more winded than Tommy D. Sorry, Tommy. Thanks for listening. It was just a little bit of a longer update than yours, but that's the week I've had. Unfortunately, it's been kind of a rough. So,
So how much extra fuel did you burn in Tampa on that one engine?
luckily it was a max. We were very lucky. So
Oh, okay.
it sipped fuel. I was talking to my first officer when we were sitting there in line. We're like number 15 for takeoff because in addition to air traffic control, there was weather north of Orlando as there normally is in Florida.
Mhm.
So they were doing 25 miles in trail spacing, which is about 20 minutes between departures. So we were sitting there just on one engine and the APU, and we were looking at. I'm like, thank God we are in a max because this thing sips fuel. So we had we had no excuse me, no issue with fuel at all. So that was good planning. Like I said, I had a solid first officer. I am very blessed and I've been very thankful that when I've had these trips that are difficult, chaotic, I have had very solid first officers. The guy I was flying with was a ex-marine aviator. He flew the V-22, the Osprey. Um, Solid guy, fairly new to the company, but knew his manual, was very supportive. His situational awareness was amazing for his time in the 737. Kept me out of trouble. I kept him out of trouble, and it was good to have him supporting me throughout that because when big situational stuff happens like that in Tampa, a captain's focus tends to narrow and you're using it like a spotlight. Like you have something going on over here, so you go, okay, let me look at it. Okay, that's taken care of. And then, okay, looking at this, okay. But meanwhile, stuff could be happening over here, and having a first officer that has a huge situational awareness spotlight that while I'm focusing on this, he was keeping me, hey, they're doing this over here, or hey, do you want me to get an update on this? Perfect. It helps me stay in the loop. And that's exactly what a first officer is supposed to do. They are a critical part of the flight deck crew because of that. They allow me to focus on big pictures. So, Alex, I don't think he knows I have a podcast or that we have a podcast or that I'm a content creator. But if for some reason this flies across your social media, Alex, thank you. You made this trip a lot easier because you were my first. Thank you. I rarely say that, but it's to them I will. But he really did make this trip a whole lot easier. So I
That's
appreciate that.
cool.
Yeah, and I've told Tommy every time something weird happens at work, I'll text Tommy, and my transition to captain at Envoy was a lot easier. I feel like, not the technicality, not the flying, not the knowledge of the. It's just the operational challenges at a legacy airline, a major airline, are a lot bigger, um, and have more scope than a regional airline.
Oh,
So
sure.
yeah, so I've faced a lot of op in my. I've just it's oh Tommy, I've been a captain for a year. I just realized that was 3 days ago.
Mhm.
I've been a captain
Yep.
for a year. There we go. I knew
Yep.
something. I was forgetting something, but in this year,
And
it's
I No, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah. I would say in this year, it's just there's been a lot of operational challenges that I've had to work through as a captain, which I don't think I never felt like that when I was at Envoy. Anyway, sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah, I kind of bookmark it with Thanksgiving
Yeah, that's
because you
yeah.
were at your training facility across the Thanksgiving holiday.
I was, and I remember because we took our first officers, our new hire first officers, out for Thanksgiving dinner in Denver. It was a little pricey, but man, that restaurant was worth it. It was a chef's 3-course meal. Oh, it was definitely worth it. It was definitely worth it. So
Nice.
yeah.
I can't wait to see what Kim does. Which, by the way, she's now okay with me using her name on social media since she was all over the live streaming at the Flight Sim Expo
Oh, cool.
and
Kim's gonna have her
even did a
own
little
social following.
content herself.
Did she?
Yeah, she did. She did. There was a workout simulator. I gotta clip the video. Maybe next week I'll play it. But you stand up and the computer screen is on top of a
Hmm.
basically a H bar, and it's an air combat game, and
Oh,
you twist and move up and down. And uh, she got a CK. She got a CK.
nice, nice.
And it was all run through an Xbox controller.
You know what? Maybe Kim will be our third host, or maybe Cool Joe. We'll see. We'll see. That'd be
We'll
pretty
see.
cool.
Yeah, he's
That would
not
be.
he's not doing much of anything.
Yeah,
In
right now.
fact, speaking of the climate and aviation, I was supposed to go next week. As a matter of fact, is it next week? Yeah, yeah, next the week of the second. I was to fly out on the second
Oh, okay.
and go do some train some people in Lansing, Michigan, and
That's my neck of the woods.
yep. And I had to cancel it because what was with everything that's going on
Mm,
because it's not. This happened to me coming back from Savannah. Uh, I was on my 175,
hmm.
which what a great little plane that is. It
I
is
love
so
the
comfortable.
175. Love that airplane.
And uh, I was literally sitting there talking to the first officer of my flight
Hmm.
and one of the flight attendants. I was sitting in between them, and it just happened to happen that way at the gate. So I look outside and I'm looking, and it's pouring out.
Hmm.
And I looked at him. I was like, "Hey, Captain, I got a question." He's like, "Yeah, man, what's up?" And he's sitting there like with his, smoothie or
Yeah.
whatever. And I point out the window. I'm like, "Are you going to put more fuel on for that?" And he just turns around and he looks and he goes, let me recheck." He goes, "I didn't even start with this flight yet because we've been on the ground for about 90 minutes."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay." And and now I didn't tell him your name. I didn't tell him who you worked for. I was like, "Cause if my gut says something's wrong, I'm just going to text a 737 pilot, see what's
Yeah.
supposed to happen here, because he's type rated on this plane too."
Yeah.
And he started laughing. He goes, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, good friend of mine." And he was like, "Oh, that is hysterical." We, so it was conditions where the ramp closed,
Oh, probably
like the
lightning.
lightning was that close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ramp was closed. Finally, we board the aircraft, and then the terminal gets struck with lightning.
No way.
Yeah.
Ow.
So there was enough of a gap in the lightning for us to board the aircraft and get ready to push. Then it came back. And so, to make a long story short, I finally get up to Dulles and then I called. I actually texted Joe
Hmm.
and I was like, "Dude, I understand I'm across town. I got to make 2 phone calls. I can't do it. Can you get me a Hilton or an Embassy Suites close to Dulles? I'll explain tomorrow." And like 2 minutes later, he texts me. He's like, "Yeah, man, no problem." Bam. And he found me an Embassy Suites because I'm on the phone with my company's travel agent, which
Oh, yeah.
I, I don't get it. They call it a travel agent, but it's all my company. My company owns it.
It's not really a travel
It's
agent.
a
It's a
tax thing.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I get there, they got my Uber because everything is taken care of when
Hmm.
I travel. Worst case is if I have to put something on my corporate card,
Okay.
which is no big deal.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of an expense report, right? Well, I get to the embassy. Now it is so by the time I landed in Dulles, my connecting flight from Dulles to my home airport was already landed and put to bed. Like
It's
it was
gone.
already
Yeah. It's gone.
yeah.
Yeah.
And rebooking through the app
Hmm.
was so super simple. It literally took me 30 seconds to do it.
Yeah. Hmm.
And, I flew out the next morning. I think I texted you the next morning because
Yeah. We did.
it was a beautiful, clear morning. And I actually waited to as long as I can outside
Mhm.
plane spotting.
Oh yeah,
So, and that's when I learned how big Dulles actually is.
Dulles is huge. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
I was like,
huge.
damn. I mean, I made it to my gate, to actually talk to my flight crew, which on the CRJ, which got switched for a different flight crew.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's what the pictures I showed you. I scored the baseball cards and the little wings for my grandsons.
There you go.
But
Yeah, yeah. I have a couple of those now. I'm finding there's like for example in O'Hare at the cheap pod office, those like trading cards they ration them out because if they leave them in the drawer like they normally do, people just take them and then we never see them.
yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I do remember that. I do remember that. But yeah, so travel and just in general recently is kind of rough. And once again, huge shout out to the air traffic controllers. I know a couple like Pork Chop up in Chicago. They're working without pay. You know, it's a requirement of their job and it sucks. But we personally, me personally, really appreciate what they do because for them to show up to work and keep us safe without pay is a sacrifice. So we do thank you guys for doing that. Hopefully, we're not going to get political, but hopefully this government shutdown or some sort of provision to allow you all to get paid because you guys deserve that at a minimum. But moving on.
Yeah, because we got a friend that is also
Oh, that's right.
RAI.
Yeah, RAI. Yeah, I actually haven't heard. I haven't even heard of. Not heard of him, but heard from him in a while. I need to check on him, see how he's doing. Might have talked to him going into Watch Center because he normally works the Newark sector, coming up from the south on the Filbo, and that's where I was a couple
Yeah,
days ago. So need to check in with him, see how he's doing. But we're gonna move on. So like I said earlier in the show, we're kind of restructuring how we're doing Jargon in a Jiffy. So I'm not Jargon in a Jiffy. I'm sorry, the show. So if you're with us for the previous seasons, we would do news, Jargon in a Jiffy, and then a discussion topic and safety stand down, all sorts of like different segments throughout the show. But in order to keep things more kind of casual, Tommy and I agreed that rather than do every single time all those things, we're gonna break it up throughout the month. So the first part of the month will be like a Jargon and Jiffy one episode. Then we'll do a reaction video. Then we'll do a discussion topic, and at the end of the month, we'll go over the news from the beginning of the month. So we're kind of combining a little bit because we only came back last week. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of aviation, gaming, and automotive news, as well as a discussion topic at the end, which is where the title of the episode "Choose Your Poison" comes from. But first, and normally I'll cut. You know, we do individual stuff, but for this one, I want to keep Tommy D on this one. So for aviation news today, what we're going to be talking about is the 2025 quarter 3 financial performance for Legacy Airlines, and talk a little bit about Spirit Airlines because obviously that's a huge topic right now in the airline industry. But I want to ask Tommy. Okay, so Tommy, the three big legacy carriers, right? Delta, American, and United. For those of you that don't know, they're called legacies because they got their start in airmail, which technically Delta didn't. Delta was a crop dusting company, so in East, I think it was East Texas. Technically speaking, not a legacy, but considered a legacy because they've been around the most, right? So American and United started in airmail, and then Delta was technically crop dusting and airmail, but those are the three legacies. So in quarter 3, Tommy, of those three, who do you think performed the best, and who do you think performed the worst? So the number 1 and the number 3 slot for the legacies.
I believe United would be the one that uh, performed the best.
Okay.
And if history says anything, American
American's the
is,
bottom performer.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
okay, you nailed American. Fortunately, or I should say fortunately, unfortunately for my company, Delta outperformed United this round in quarter 3.
Really?
Yeah, and I usually wait until like our towards the end of the year, those episodes I will dial in the year statistics. But for quarter 3, Delta Airlines actually took the cake, reporting a strong third quarter with a revenue rising up to $16.67 billion. That's B. And net income increasing to about 1.42 billion, also providing earnings guidance for the fourth quarter and full year 2025. So it's looking promising. A key insight is that the airline highlighted robust demand in premium and corporate. So we're seeing a return, at least to Delta, of corporate flying, which pre-pandemic was the majority of most flying here in the United States. But then post-pandemic, it became more leisure flying. But now we're kind of seeing a step back into corporate flying as well. Um, But with management expecting continued strength in premium travel demand, it's going to be interesting to see how Delta does in the future. As you always know, it's Delta and United are always fighting for the top spot. This time last year, when I was going through upgrade training, was the first time in a while that we beat Delta in our quarterly performance. So a year later, United's coming in spot number two, but not off by much. The key thing to note with United is that two out of the three estimates, the metrics, they topped those, so they're doing better than expected. So United Airlines reported third quarter earnings being an upbeat forward guidance a week after rival Delta saw premium and business travelers boost its results. United Airlines had an operating revenue of $15.2 billion. So a little, 1.2 billion less than Delta.
Mhm.
But they were forecasting 15.28. So they were short by about 800 million. Um, so that's where that one of those metrics, that one pit or shortfall was that. So it was short by about 3%. But it's up 3% from last year. So last year, we were making, or United was making 3% less. So it is still a year over year increase compared to last year. United adjusted earnings per share, which is important for shareholders, for those of you that have United stock. It was 2.78 versus the 2.66 estimated, which is huge. That means that if you have United stock, you're making more money because they had more EPS per or than what was planned. Um, and with available seat miles coming in at 87 billion versus the 86.1, which means we provided more service, or United provided more service than predicted. And then the revenue per seat mile, available seat mile, was 73.77 billion versus 72. So we overshot that as well. So the only metric that United really kind of fell short on was just coming shy by about $800 million for the operating revenue, but still posting a decent profit and blowing the other metrics out of the water. So that's something I'm proud of, that we're that strong going into quarter three. Now, like Tommy said, and I completely agree with Tommy, American Airlines bringing in the bottom for the legacies. I've talked to Tommy about this. I always get asked, why didn't you flow to American? Um, there was some decision. So the reason I went to Envoy, which is a wholly owned regional, when I was a regional airline pilot, is because at the time they're the only ones that had a flow program. A flow program is basically means you interview once for Envoy, and when your seniority number comes up, you go to American without an interview. You just automatically flow. At the time, they were the only one in the world, if not the nation, to have a program like that. So that's why I went to Envoy, because it was a large, successful regional that had a flow program just in case I couldn't get to my current company. This was always my primary. Um, and two reasons I left Envoy, or the American system, and I've talked about this before, is customer service. Because I've told Tommy I've witnessed some customer service atrocities at my time at American Eagle, but also the financial strategy. I never understood American's financial strategy. In the middle of the pandemic, we were flying empty 145s to non-essential air service airports. And I remember telling my first officers, going, I don't know, this flight should have been canceled. I don't know why we are operating these flights, because we are losing money. And then in the middle of the pandemic, they started offering $150,000 bonuses to stay at Envoy, or a regional, and flow to American. And I'm sitting there going, where are we getting these $150,000 bonuses from? We're hemorrhaging cash right now. We're not even able to retain a profit right now. And that's why about a year or two ago, the chief financial officer was removed. I think he was voted out by the board of trustee, or the board at American, because of his mishandling of financials during the pandemic. And I hate to say it, it continues. American Airlines, of the three legacies post pandemic, is the only one posting a loss. So American Airlines met Wall Street's revenue expectations in quarter three, but sales were flat as compared to last year at 13.69 billion, which is about 0.17, so 17 cents per share, which was 38.2% above analysts' consistent estimates. So basically, they're matching expectations, so we expected this to happen. Wall Street did, but it's flat. We're not really seeing growth. The revenue was, so how much money American brought in was 13.69 billion versus 0.63 billion, which once again is flat. Adjusted earning per shares is 17 cents per share versus minus 28. So that's a little bit of improvement. And the operating margin, so profit margin, 1.1%, the same as last year. And free cash flow, negative 872 million compared to the 191 million in the same quarter last year. So they're posting a loss. So it still begs the question, American Airlines, what the heck are you all doing? For the two other legacies to be post pandemic posting quarter over quarter great performance, even when we saw downturns with Boeing last year, they were still turning a pretty good profit, but um, American isn't. So I've always said this, and I really hope it doesn't come to this, but I think American does need to revisit their financial strategy and figure out what the heck they're doing. Because if we hit any sort of financial hiccups or economic hiccups here in the future, I've always predicted I think they're going to be the first one to declare bankruptcy of the three legacies. And that's just because I don't understand their financial management doesn't make sense. It's never made sense to me what they're doing. And that's coming from someone who used to work as part of the American Airlines group. So for my friends that are at and my fellow airline pilots that are at American, I really do hope that they're able to figure out what the heck is going on over there, because to post a loss in a industry where growth is happening despite economic trends, which is very rare because airlines are usually the heartbeat of the economy. When the economy starts downturning, like back in like the 2008 housing market crisis, um, when the economy downturns, the first thing that stops is travel. People stop traveling, so the airlines start immediately taking a downturn. What we're seeing, and it's really weird, and economists have talked about this all over the nation, is we're not seeing that. We're seeing a downturn with like jobs reports, and the general economy with inflation and all the political policies that are affecting our economy. Um, we're seeing a downturn in the normal reports like job reports and employment reports and stuff like that, but we're not seeing a downturn in the aviation industry. And I think a lot of people are saying largely people aren't, they're in the, I'm just going to travel. For 2 years or 3 years during the pandemic, I wasn't able to travel. So I'm just going to do it. I got the money. I'm going to do it now. So there's not as much, I guess the mindset has changed since the pre-pandemic. So it's interesting to see that despite the economy showing signs of decline or slowdown, um, the aviation industry is still doing pretty well despite American. And a lot of people would argue, oh, it's Americans, the sign of the times. I don't think so. I think what we're seeing with American Airlines is just kind of mismanagement of of the company's financials. Um, because so far it looks like they're just struggling to pay off debt versus aiming to be in the black. So like I said, I really do hope that American figures that out. Tommy, do you have any insight? Have you heard anything about American? I can't believe that in this economy that
No,
they're
it's funny when you like now, I'm sure if I was like a big financial guy, I'd know it like right off the top of my head, looking at the
yeah,
different online articles and the Wall Street Journal and all that.
yeah.
But I mean, here there's a big Envoy presence as well as a United Express
Hmm.
and Breeze. Uh, you don't see very many Envoy flights early in the morning between 6 and 8:30. They power out of the gates. Yeah, I mean, and it's not like Avoca only has what 8 gates, 9 gates, or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But here it's been lately more and more Breeze and United Express than seeing the Envoys.
Yeah. Well,
And the one American flight.
yeah, and I
Because
think
there is a 320 there.
yeah, and I think what happened, it's kind of interesting because the United CEO Scott Kirby used to work for American, and American did him dirty, right? Because they basically said, "See you later." But from what I understand, when Scott came over to American once again was struggling financially, and American was going to try to Comair 2 completely close down American Eagle, turn it into a ground handling company, and just get rid of the regional model. And then Scott said, no, you guys need the regionals because they're cheaper to operate, right? And this is how you turn the company around. You use the regional guys who are cheaper to operate, more fuel efficient airplanes than the really expensive senior guys that, fly at American to do your work. And that kind of turned it around. So we always credit at Envoy and American Eagle, we always credit Scott for saving American Eagle. And then he went to United, and now United's moving more because we have the cash on hand to be able to do it, moving away from the regional model. Whereas I feel like American is stuck in it because of how much debt they're in, because of it's basically spinning their wheels. Like they're trying to get back into the premium market. They're updating cabs and stuff, which costs money, cash on hand, which they don't necessarily have. They're spending more in debt. They don't have anything, you know what I mean, like cash on hand. Um,
Hmm.
so I feel like they're so heavily invested in the savings that they get by operating the regionals that they're not able to kind of dig out that hole because they're not. I feel like they're a regional airline that has a couple 737s versus United, who is a major airline that has a couple regional jets. That's, I mean, we do have a large, United has a large regional footprint right now, but that's part of United Next is bringing a lot of that back to actual United flying, where it's like a 737 going to Scranton, something like maybe a 700, but something a little bit bigger and more United mainline going into the smaller cities. So
Which actually, to be honest with you, that would probably work here.
yeah, oh yeah, 100%, yeah. Um, so it's like one of those things. It's like I don't know if American is so heavily invested in the regional model that it's just they can't get out of it, which is good for regionals. It's good for the three wholly owns, but it's bad for the big airline, the main airline.
You know what?
Um,
And I tend to agree too, because they're operating at a loss. They are pouring money into their aircraft to change and update and do this, that, and the other thing too. And, there's this one little thing that we didn't bring up yet, that all businesses, regardless, airlines, this one, that one, everyone in the corporate America realm,
mhm.
their return on investment,
Yes,
and
yeah,
it seems that the pit that they're in, their ROI is so lofty, they're actually, to me, it seems like, yeah, we're going to spend this $500 million to do A, B, C, D, and E, but the regionals will make that up, and that'll prove
mhm,
that our ROI will be achieved,
right.
and it just does not seem like it's at some point it's going to be like, what are we going to sell?
Yeah, well,
You,
and
you know what
that's
I'm
yeah,
saying? What are we going to do? Are we capable of getting a federal bailout because we are American?
yeah.
And I
And
don't want to see that happen. I
I
really
don't
don't.
either.
But
Yeah, and I'm not an economist. This is just a 35,000-foot overview of Q3 performance. But I mean, it's consistent with the stuff that like I said, I spent 5 years as part of the American Airlines group at the regionals, and this is consistent with what I saw while I was there. And it's almost like they hear you got to spin to make money, which is true because Branson with I think it
yeah,
was Virgin Atlantic said if you want to be a millionaire and own an airline, you have to be a billionaire first because you lose that much money to become a millionaire.
yep,
It's the same idea. But I think American, all they're hearing is you got to spend, so they're just like blind spending, Whereas United's strategy is cash on hand and paying down debt, which is huge. Last statistic I've heard within the past year is that United has enough cash on hand to handle and keep the business running without any. I don't say without any income, but during an economic crisis for 18 months. I don't know any other airline that's has that ability. Maybe Delta. Delta might have that option too, but I know that American probably doesn't have that option. So yeah, I know it's interesting. I just don't know. I mean, obviously they're stronger in the domestic market. United is stronger in the international market because United does a lot of their own international flying, whereas Delta uses partners. Delta's wide body and international flying is a lot smaller because they use like British Airways um, and other people to do their flying for them. So I don't know if that has anything to do with that.
yep,
American has a great domestic product. They're very strong in the domestic market, but an airline that size, a legacy with the wide body flying and stuff like that, they need to be, diversifying and stuff like that as well to make sure that they're covering and because like for United, their big money income or profit comes from the premium international flights. So if that maybe that's where Americans struggling. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an economist. I'm not saying I can go be the CFO and grab American by the suspenders and lift them out of the hole. I'm just hoping because in the current economic environment and the airline industry right now, to report a loss in the third quarter is kind of interesting. I mean, it's what they predicted, so they knew it was going to happen, but it's just like you're knowing the problem. Are you digging yourself out? Is there a plan basically in place to get you guys out of this issue? Because you all need to figure it out, and that's what I have. That's what. But anyways, that is. Oh wait, no, I still got one more. We got to talk about Spirit. Spirit's a big one because Spirit, for some reason, is still alive, which is good for my pilot friends, my fellow Alpha pilots. Good for them, but things keep getting worse. So we're in the second bankruptcy within 6 months. I could have sworn by now they would have been
Hmm.
gone Chapter 7. They weren't able to restructure efficiently in the first 6 months, but then they got granted another Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And they just announced, I think it's another 300 plus pilot furloughs coming. So it's getting to the point where they're going to shrink down so small that they're not going to be a useful airline or a profitable airlines to begin with. But bankruptcy allows them to restructure. So I have this is from the New York Associated Press. Um, the shares of Spirit Airlines plunged Wednesday after the budget airline said it won't announce quarterly final results or financial results on time while it continues to talk with bondholders to restructure its debt. So that's another one. If they don't want to tell you, it's like when you go to a restaurant and they don't put prices on the menu. That means something's not good, right? They're afraid to tell
Yeah.
their shareholders because they're afraid they're just going to run, right? Sell their dump their stocks and go. Spirit said negotiations are progressing towards an agreement that would protect creditors, customers. However, the company did say that if such a deal is reached, it would expect to wipe out existing shares. So, in other words, they're going to be useless. The stock was down 58% in the afternoon, trading on last Wednesday. If it can reach a deal, Spirit said it would go through a statutory restructuring that would protect creditors, employees, customers, and companies that do business with the airline, but is expected to lead to the cancellation of the company's existing equity, which is not good. You're talking about wiping out to like basically starting up just enough to survive. And I would like to point out, we talked about this. Remember episode 14, Tommy? The antitrust?
Hmm.
One of my favorite episodes of all time. And for us, it's like one of the highest ranking episodes that we ever did in terms of viewership and comments and all that stuff. It was a great episode. We were talking about the merger between JetBlue and Spirit. And then the DOJ came out of nowhere and stuck their nose in something and said, nope, can't have it. It's going to stop people from having access to affordable airline tickets, right? Which we talked about. Antitrust, I can kind of understand it, but in order to compete against Southwest, mergers like that needs to happen. To be able to keep rates down, you need to be able to compete with the big dog, which is Southwest right now in that market. And even Southwest is changing right now too. I didn't do the results, but they're changing. They're doing premium, they're doing assigned seating, they're trying to get with the times to maintain their financial stability, which their quarter three results actually wasn't too bad if I remember correctly. But the DOJ stepped in and said, nope, we're blocking this merger between JetBlue and Spirit because we're afraid that they're going to no longer provide reasonable or affordable prices to that market. Well, guess what, DOJ? You just screwed over Spirit. Spirit is now struggling financially as a result of that blocked merger, and your fear of not being able to provide, affordable tickets in that market by merging them. You're doing the exact same thing because Spirit is going to have to try to jack up prices or abandon their low cost carrier model to be able to stay afloat. And they're shrinking their route structure, they're shrinking their pilot structure. So all the availability of these cheap tickets that you guys were worried about at the DOJ are now going to be non-existent because they're trying to struggle and stay alive. So, in my opinion, the DOJ is the direct reason why Spirit is failing right now. And ironically, and the hypocrisy is insane. The reason why they blocked it is what they're now causing by originally blocking that merger. So Spirit, like I said, still furloughing. They're still restructuring. They're in their second bankruptcy. I don't know how much longer this is going to go or who's holding them afloat. Um, I know I've flown with a lot of Spirit guys that have come over that were like 15-year Spirit guys that came over to my company. People are jumping ship left and right. So I don't know if Frontier, I've heard rumors that Frontier may have reapproached Spirit about a merger. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. I haven't really seen anything official on it, but if that happens, don't block them. If you want to maintain that market, don't block them from merging. They need that to survive. That's part of capitalism is absorbing like United Airlines, all the legacies, Delta, American, United. they've all at some point absorbed a struggling airline. United absorbed Cal in 2012. Delta absorbed merged with Northwest. American with TWA when they were having financial troubles. It's part of the airline industry. Now I could understand if they were the only one, like if Southwest said, "Hey, I'm going to buy Spirit, I'm going to buy Frontier, and now we're going to be this huge low cost carrier with no other competition." That would be antitrust. That would be anti-monopoly. They would have to stop that. But for two struggling carriers to merge, to be competitive and stay alive in the airline industry, there shouldn't have been any issue with that. So, but if you guys want
Nope.
more,
And we said this a year ago.
yep, and I would say if you guys want more in-depth discussion about antitrust laws and stuff, definitely go check episode number 14, antitrust, because that's the episode where we really kind of dive into that. Um, that was aviation news. I'm gonna hand it over to Tommy next to talk about some gaming news, and then after that, I have a short Motor Trend article talking about the future of driverless taxis. So over to you, Tommy.
Thanks, folks. It is happening. Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming over to PlayStation. The official release date is going to be December 8th. So in a little bit more than a month and a half, you will be able to play it on the PS5. If you pre-order Deluxe Premium or Deluxe Premium Aviator super duper cool mode, the more money you spend, you only get it 5 days early. So for December 3rd launch. I know what a lot of people are thinking. I know what a lot of people are going to say. There's a lot of questions still out floating around that I could not find in my research any answers to. Will there be available flight controls? Probably. My guess would be Turtle Beach is going to jump on that the same way they jumped on it for when they released it a couple years ago on Xbox. Payware aircraft, is it going to be available? Eventually. Now, here's where the problem lies. Microsoft, in all their infinite wisdom, so Microsoft 2020 was supposed to be a 10-year plan. That's about their mapping. But it's supposed to be 10 years before the next release. So what do? They release it 4 years later because in the gaming industry nowadays, it's all about the microtransactions. And released not so great of a flight simulator. Uh, I had said on this podcast, and I've said in my own live streams that I will not pay for 2024. I will not do this. And I will say this, the only reason why I do have 2024 installed is because of my Xbox app and membership. But they have updated it and they're actually making it more and more playable and to a wider market. So I have a feeling within a year and a half, maybe 2020 is going to be gone and everyone's going to start porting over. I personally have started porting over. There's a few things, in my opinion, that we'll talk about at a later date that the Microsoft needs to do. So I'm going to send an email and tell them to get themselves into this podcast and hear the truth from a reliable source. That's not the biggest streamer or gamer in the world, but they are making efforts. That's all they're saying right now about the PS5. I looked to see if PMDG or Coronado or any of the other bigger aircraft or scenery developers were going to be jumping in the wagon. Whatever is released in the base game in the marketplace, that's what PS5 is getting for the time being. Here's the thing. I'm a big 7.3 guy, right? Everybody that's seen my stream knows that 99.17% of the time I'm in some variant of a 7.3 or a 777, right? I'm a Boeing guy. PMDG right now is beta and testing and changing everything around to release their aircraft for Flight Sim 2024. The only one that ports over now that they have successful that I have, and I've used it in 2024, is the 777. My iFly Max is there, and it works well. It works very well, actually. But there's where the tie-up's going to be. It could be up to a couple of years before PlayStation sees any payware quality aircraft. I mean, there are more questions than answers right now with this because it just kind of dropped out of the air like, hey, we're going to release it for the PS5. Why not, right? So kind of the same way they did it for the Xbox, where we're just going to drop it in people's laps and throw that dart at the board and see where it lands. From what I understand, the Xbox gamers are doing very, very well with it. They do have some sort of flight control system. You know, a big part of it is thanks to Turtle Beach. Some of the things like that the PC people have, they'll never have, which is unfortunate, but we'll see what the technology brings. But I'm keeping my eye on this when I find the answers to the payware aircraft sceneries and everything else, I will let you know. Um, 2024 is still in development. Uh, I'm learning all about it now, kind of get a jump on it. I might pull my Max out and putz around with it a little bit later today before work, but we'll see. But you PlayStation guys, hold your hats. You will hear it first here after I read the news article. So that's where we're at with that, Bill.
Well, that's
There
yeah,
we
sorry.
are.
Yep, I was trying to do likes on our TikTok live to try to get it up so to get it up all the stuff there.
Oh, all
Sorry.
right. Hang on.
Yeah, what do we, so that way I
When
can
I'm
get
not on camera.
yeah, I'm sitting there going to try to get everybody to get it to up the ranking there. But that's yeah, that's interesting that they're moving because obviously Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's interesting that they're moving to the PS5 because it makes you wonder. Okay, so what other future things can we see? For example, GTA 5, generally speaking, or GTA 6 will go PC, PS5, and then Xbox. So I'm
hmm
wondering if it's going to be more synonymous with the consoles where PS5 and Microsoft are doing collabs to kind of figure that out. So, uh,
I think that's what you will see. I
yeah,
mean, Rockstar is a lot more open than Microsoft is
yeah,
when it
and
comes to things like that.
yeah. In all fairness, to GTA 5 was what 2013, 10 years ago. So nowadays with the technology, I figured they'd be a little bit more um have the ability to bring it out on multiple platforms a lot quicker. They did, my opinion.
Well, and what I think they're doing is, and I don't necessarily disagree with this because I've read a couple articles. Like during our hiatus, they're they're taking the Bluebird simulation approach to it.
Hmm.
They want it to be as bug free right out of the box on release day,
Yeah,
and like here's your art, here is the genuine iron article, and then it's just a matter of coding it for PS,
yeah,
Xbox, PC, where it's like that difference in the coding. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? But that's the feeling that I have that they're trying to do.
Which is good. I mean, we need it,
Which,
so
yeah,
it's gonna be good. I'm still waiting for that to come out in May. I haven't heard anything else. We haven't seen any other trailers from Rockstar, so other than them updating to May of 2026 being the release date. So we
yeah.
will
To me, that's
see.
just hard at work.
Hard at work. Yeah. So thank you, Tommy, for the update. We'll now move on to the next, which is going to be automotive news, and that is coming from Motor Trend, my favorite source of automotive news. The article's name is Uber's Next Drivers 100,000 Self-Driving Cars Powered by NVIDIA. And this kind of dips a toe in both Tommy and Mai's world because we like talking about gaming, aviation, and gaming PCs. Tommy and I both use NVIDIA GTX graphics cards. I have a NVIDIA GTX 3060 Ti in my computer. So I saw this and I was like, oh, perfect. This definitely kind of dips a toe both in the gaming world and also the automotive news world. This is by Eric Tingwall, writer and manufacturer as of yesterday, 2025. So NVIDIA is partnering with Uber and multiple automakers to develop and deploy 100,000 self-driving taxis and delivery vehicles in the coming years. It's a 4.8 million, or excuse me, trillion computing juggernaut. NVIDIA is, and it will supply its Drive AGX Hypertension 10 platform to multiple automakers who will supply the ride hailing giant with level 4 autonomous vehicles, which are basically capable of navigating geofenced areas without a human driver. The announcement was made by NVIDIA founder and CEO Jensen Huang during a keynote speech at the company's 2025 Global Technology Conference in Washington, D.C. There is an unspecified portion of the $100,000 vehicles which will be designed and manufactured by Stellantis, which are the same people that designed like the Jeeps, stuff like that in 2028, with the initial batch of 5,000 vehicles being deployed in the United States in 2028. The vehicles will be based on the company's K0 medium van and STLA small platforms. In addition to Uber and NVIDIA, Stellantis is tapping the electronics manufacturer Foxconn to help develop the hardware and integrate it into the vehicle. Separately, so it's not just them, but also Lucid. So Lucid will incorporate the Hyperion architecture into future vehicles, including its upcoming $50,000 SUV to enable driverless option of privately owned cars. The next generation mid-size SUV, likely to be called Earth, is stated to start production in the year end of 2026 and will initially launch with a hands-off, eyes-off-the-road driver assistance system that will eventually be upgraded to a level 4 system that doesn't require a human driver. This news builds on the July announcement that Lucid will supply the 20,000 Gravity SUVs to Nuro, which will install its own self driving software sensor suite before delivering them to Uber. So that is insane. We have talked about this on our past episodes about AI and controlling. And I know there's a lot of people that do not want to ride in the robo taxis. I'm one of them, not like as a conspiracy theorist. I'm curious about the safety aspect of them for me personally. But the fact that Lucid and Stellantis, which is basically who makes the Jeeps here in the United States, are fully investing in this autonomous vehicle future is absolutely insane. And Tommy and I are a little more on the same plane here when we're talking about cars. So I'm going to bring him in and let's talk about this for a second. Um, Tommy D, talking about. Oh, I'm sorry. You're good. You're good.
No, 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 no. I'm good. Uh, we might know someone who actually rode in one of these taxis in Las Vegas recently.
Oh, was it Joe? It was Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Joe can give us insight on it. But I personally am still kind of because I've always thought that the market was very split on whether or not they wanted fully autonomous cars. Um, because like I said, I've flown with people that are like, oh, I would never. And then like with me, I would never fully automate an airplane. Like that's one, job security, but two,
Nope.
if you see half the crap that George or autopilot does that I have to sit there and go, nope, don't do that. You don't understand why there's human pilots in the flight deck. So it's interesting to see such a bold and large capital move for 100,000 cars by 2028. Or I'm sorry, 5,000 of those in 2028. With Nvidia and Lucid. Lucid's a big car manufacturer, and they're planning on going fully autonomous, not like hands and paying attention. Going to I'm taking a nap, car, do your thing. So it is a step in the future. But my question is we keep talking about like with American Airlines, is the investment worth the return or is worth the return? Do you think people are going to be buying these self-driving $50,000 cars?
I think people are going to initially jump all over it,
Mm-hmm.
but I said this when we were discussing it way back when with, autonomous aircraft. No, electronics fail. No,
Yeah,
things
but
break, things happen,
my only
and
yeah, I'm sorry,
no.
go on. Yeah, I would say my only argument with that is, I mean, we have crazy drivers here. I feel like the crazy drivers are now all over the place, right? Because the lack of understanding or the lack or willingness to follow laws as it pertains to safety on the roadway, I see it all the time, which is unfortunate. People driving crazy. Um, so the one benefit of that is they wouldn't be the ones driving the vehicle. You know, if it's a
All
autonomous
right.
vehicle, and because I know Google, for example, when you're driving down the road, if you pass a speed limit sign that changes, you'll get the little sign that like pops up on your Google Maps things like, hey, this is now the speed limit. So there's that where they could definitely be like, they could definitely program the car, be like, hey, this is the new speed limit. So you got people, which one will help traffic flow. You won't have traffic jams if everybody's going the same speed. You won't have people doing ridiculous speeds necessarily if everybody's driving an autonomous vehicle. So I can honestly see some safety improvements that would result because human drivers are becoming worse vehicle operators. That's just my
I'm
devil's advocate standpoint.
I
That
I do agree with that to a, you know, um I do agree with that to a point.
yeah,
That you do take the problems out
hmm
of the child's hands.
yeah,
You don't give a kid a paperclip and point out the outlet. You
correct,
mitigate and you remove the risk, right?
right,
So I do agree with that to a degree, but also, what is the guarantee? Where's the full proof? Where is, oh, this is, as long as you do this, that, and the other thing, right? Because human nature. Say I have an autonomous vehicle, right?
Hmm.
But my computers are due to upgrade, right? The IMUs,
Hmm.
God knows how many IMUs will be in these things, but are due for upgrades for this, that, and it's got to go to the dealership.
Yep.
There's one thing too, just natural. I had a rough week at work. I am sitting here and watching ESPN today. I'm not doing a thing. No,
Yeah.
how bad is that going to work? Now I understand there's going to be a foolproof uh, cache, redundancy and stuff like that. I get all that, and
Hmm.
I understand. But why take that chance?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I do agree because because remember Tesla used to have those autopilots, and then actually here in my hometown, up off the interstate, there was a tragic accident where the Tesla accelerated towards a semi or didn't realize that the semi was there, went right up underneath the semi and killed the passengers. I mean, it just went right up under, just completely ripped the top of the car off. Um, and that's where they stopped with the complete autopilot, the fully autonomous stuff. So yeah, there
Mhm.
is still an argument of, is it safe to do so? But then, like for me, like I said, I'd be balancing because, like for me as a pilot, if even if I'm in a fully autonomous vehicle, I'm gonna be watching it. They better not take away my steering. There better be a set of controls for me to be able to take over if something goes sideways. That's my only
I
thing.
I would I would think that by with all if they went to do that, I think the amount of restrictions that are going to be placed on it
Hmm.
are is going to be legendary.
I
I
hope
mean,
so.
I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some sort of controls on it as a failsafe because you know what? There's going to be someone, not necessarily a PhD, that turns around and be like, "Hey, you guys know that a motherboard can fry when it gets too hot, right?"
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And
You
so,
know, I mean,
yeah.
we don't
So
need quantum physics for this.
right. And so that's what I'm hoping is maybe that balance because there, like you said, it is a balance. There's some pros, but there's definitely some cons. So we'll see. We'll see. It's just
Right.
the
And
taxi industry is a good place to start it because those are only going to be driven by people who want to be driven around by fully autonomous vehicles, and that's
right.
where to
And
start.
then you know what? We could even probably back this up. If we were doing this conversation 80 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Pre World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So longer than that, right? Bet you a
Yeah.
couple people sat around debating autopilot on aircraft too.
Well, I mean, they still do. There's still that argument of
Yeah.
is it degrading our ability to fly? So like my company highly encourages hand flying when we can to make sure we're that proficient. We saw that Asiana flight in San Francisco as a result of because different cultures have different and different countries have different philosophies when it comes to automation.
Mhm.
And with the Asiana, it was their culture at that airline was to use the autopilot as much as they can because that was the safest thing to do. But in fact, that degraded their hand flying abilities, and that's almost what directly led to the incident or the accident that occurred in San Francisco with the Asiana 777. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's definitely an argument, different ways, and obviously as this starts to progress, Tommy and I will be able to use this as a platform to express our opinions, which is amazing. New
right.
is all the industry is doing is just giving us extra episodes to talk about stuff. So,
Because
um,
Tommy was a year ago and still is today 100% completely against fully
against it,
autonomous
yeah,
vehicles.
yeah, I'm trying to stay as neutral as I can about it, but yeah, I personally right now would not step into an autonomous vehicle because I don't think the technology is
No.
where it needs to be at. But speaking of discussions, it is now time for our discussion this week, which should be short and sweet, and yes, pun intended. We're going to be talking about what is our favorite Halloween candy and or tradition because Tommy and I come from different generations. We talked about and I can't remember which episode number it was, but it was Tommy and Bill's Excellent Adventure. We talked about our generational gaps and the different things from our different generations. So I'm interested to see Halloween wise if there's anything one candy because I know everybody has their own candy that they love and why. Even my wife and I have differing opinions about that, but also Halloween traditions, something like your number one favorite thing that you remember um, from your childhood, or maybe with your grandkids, like you're talking about apple picking, stuff like that. So I'll go ahead and let you start, Tommy. Let's talk about candy. If you had to choose, you're on a desert island and you had to choose a candy that you could have for Halloween, what would it be? What would be that go-to Halloween candy?
Hands down, Three Musketeers.
Ooh, that you know what? That is a good one. I honestly, I don't think I
Mhm.
could argue that. Three Musketeers. It has caramel. It has peanuts, right? Or like nougat in there.
Nougat. It has nougat in
Nougat
it. Yep.
and chocolate. Oh, that's a good combination.
Yep.
Because you got crunchy, you got creamy, and you got chocolate. Dang, dude, that is a good one. Ooh, okay. But mine's it's I'm trying to think because I have multiple because Musketeers is definitely up there. But my personal, and I don't know why it's my personal favorite because I talk to a lot of people that absolutely despise this candy, but it is my favorite. I love it. It's candy corn. I love candy corn. That's like one of my favorite
Okay.
of all time is candy corn. My wife hates
You
it.
know what?
Absolutely hates it.
I have had and you know what? There's no in the middle with
No.
candy corn. There is no, yeah, it's all right. I'll have it during like the harvest season of
Season.
the
Yeah.
year. You know what I'm saying? No, you're either 100% in or you don't have it at all. See, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I don't do candy corn.
Yeah. It's a lot of
Not a,
sugar.
not a,
It's pure sugar. So there's no balance like Musketeers, for example, Three Musketeers. You have the chocolate, you have the caramel, you have the nougat. It's a good combination. Candy corn is just pure sugar. That's all it is. It's just
oh,
crystallized
yeah.
sugar. And I love it. My wife hates it. Um and she gets me a bag just for me. I know she won't touch it. But yeah, I've met a handful of people that are either all for it or against it. Like you said, there is no in between. There's like, if I'm in the mood, no, it's either ew, that's
No,
disgusting,
right.
or yeah, I'm all
I'm going to
about
eat
candy
it by
corn.
the truckload. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to be careful because I do get a headache if I eat too much because it is pure sugar. It is just an absolute
Oh, yeah.
just pure sugar. Um but I could and my
I think the
second
only thing that
favorite
outdoes it is rock candy.
yeah, that exactly because it's soft versus hard. That's all. It's all sugar.
Hmm.
Um I will say my close second though is Reese's. I love the combination of peanut butter and chocolate. I that
You know what?
combo.
Amazing. Amazing combination right there, the Reese's. Now you see, my I enjoy Reese's, but unfortunately that's tertiary to me.
What's that?
My close backup after that is the Kit Kat. So you get
Oh,
the I have always been a big
ooh,
I always enjoyed wafers. But you
yeah.
see, I also if now I've never in my lifetime came across this problem, but if I can't get my hands on a Three Musketeers when I'm in the mood for a
Mm-hmm.
chocolate bar,
Kit
it's a
Kat.
Kit Kat.
You know what? My wife loves Kit Kats. It's there's something about the dryness on the inside that wafer.
Mhm.
It's a good texture. It's a really good texture. But you know, there was one that I absolutely despise. A Kit Kat. Okay, so you have the regular Kit Kats. I really like the white chocolate Kit Kats. Those are always delicious.
Mhm.
The one that I
Yep.
absolutely despise, and I think it was last year that I tried it, was the Green Witches Kit Kat. Dude, that tasted
Yeah,
like
not a fan.
wax. I couldn't
Yeah.
understand what the flavoring because white chocolate, you have white chocolate. I can't tell you why it tastes different, but white chocolate tastes different than if to me it tastes different than normal chocolate. But then the green witch Kit Kat tasted like candle wax, and I couldn't figure
Mhm.
out why not just dye it green and make it white chocolate and then like I couldn't figure out why it tasted so bad. And it was and my wife
I
hated it too. She tossed it. We ended up tossing them because they were garbage. So
Now, you see, coming from the medical field, I saw that and it was like, "Oh, it's gonna be green, this, that, and the other thing," and I'm like, no, I don't need nothing green."
yeah,
I mean,
it's
vegetables are one thing, candy, I'm not
yeah,
eating
Kit
green
Kat.
candy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
now you
that's
see,
and I don't know if it was a food
Kim,
coloring or what. Yeah, what's Kim's? What's Kim's
it
favorite?
might have been. So Kim really very, very infrequently eats candy anymore.
Okay,
Like, we could call it a rarity nowadays, like more of a
gotcha.
protein bar
Yeah.
type of thing. But when Kim did eat candy, Skittles reigned supreme.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean,
I could,
Skit
I can handle a bag of Skittles. I just not. I'm more of an M&M guy than I am a Skittle guy. But I have to be in the mood for
Mhm.
Skittles. You know, if that sour sweet flavor, I can do that. But a lot of times, if
Yep.
I'm going for those like little, like the, I guess the circular, like the small bite-sized stuff, I'm more of a like a peanut butter M&M guy. I love peanut butter M&Ms.
That's where I am, the peanut M&Ms. Have you ever tried the pretzel M&Ms?
I have. Are you talking about the
Yeah,
pretzel caramel
I'm
ones?
yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
those
they're
are
pretty good.
oh beautiful. It's just oh god, I'm getting hungry just thinking about them right now. But yeah, those are beautiful. The ones I don't like. Wait, actually, I'm trying to think if there's an M&M's that I don't like. I don't think there is because you got the peanut butter caramel, you got the peanut butter chocolate. They had cookie dough ones there for a
Mhm.
little bit, which weren't too bad. Um,
Which I never tried. I was like,
they're not
I
bad. I
kind of
mean,
shied away from that,
they're
but
not. They're more cookie. It's basically cookie dough shelled with chocolate. So it's not. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
not
know. It's
nothing
not
too crazy.
nothing too
I don't know
crazy.
why I just shied away. I probably that's because I had when I saw him, I probably already had Three Musketeers in my hand.
Yeah, I was saying you already have your favorite candy in hand. So, okay,
Yeah,
that was a good. I like that. Three Musketeers. That's a great option. I love that. Now
and
let's
it's
talk about.
funny because I live 2 hours from Hershey.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're not too far from
I
Hershey
live there.
Park.
Hershey is literally right here.
From source to table, literally.
Yeah,
It's right there.
literally.
It's like the farmers market or the harvest for candy. You could just go down to the
Yep.
actual source. That's awesome. Um, but now let's talk about traditions, because this may vary a little bit. Because I come from my generation was still actually like trick or treating, before trunk or treats, and maybe it was a little more on the dangerous side, I guess. Nowadays, we can talk about that too, to go
Hmm.
trick or treating. But for you, Tommy, what's your favorite memory or tradition or thing that you and your family like to do on Halloween? Something that really brings back a warm memory.
We used to, so years ago when I was a kid, my father was a member of the Knights of Columbus.
Oh,
And
Knights
one
of
of the things
Columbus.
we would, yep, one of the things we would do every year was his lodge, chapter,
Hmm.
local, whatever it was they called it, um, threw a big Halloween party. I
Ooh.
mean, it for the times in the 80s, it was a massive party, and there was
Hmm.
food, and you could bring whoever you want. So, when I was older, like of school age, elementary school
Hmm.
age, my friend Joe, he would be there. My friends would come, and my parents, and now you're going back to my generation where everybody knew everybody in the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Hmm. Yeah, it was a
You
different
know,
time. Yeah.
it was. And there, I wouldn't say that the parents didn't go trick or treating. But when you see a pack of 15 kids walking up the street,
Hmm.
there was a lot less parents then because we trick or treated our neighborhood and everyone knew everyone. So it wasn't
Yeah.
that big of a deal, and mind you, I go back to the, you know, $10 in a cardboard box, smells like toxic waste mess, elastic
Yeah.
band, costumes. And but just the parties themselves, like someone every year always did something. Someone would turn their house into, a haunted house where you walk in the front
Hmm.
door, through the living room, down the basement, out the cellar door,
Yeah.
and it would be some sort, but it was, just like that quick scare you, but you had nothing to worry about because you knew you weren't going to get hurt because,
Yeah.
you know, a couple days from now, you were going to call for your friend Bobby who lives there.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that was always really, really cool. And it wasn't and the football game. They would like us kids would
Yeah.
play
We
a
play
massive
football.
football game. Yeah,
Yeah.
because if I think they still do it now, but when Halloween fell on a school day,
Hmm.
you would go to school, you would have your Halloween party, and you would dismiss at lunch.
That's how it is here. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so that's cool that they still do that. So we would go trick or treating, say from like call it 1 o'clock, because I don't
Hmm.
really remember. I mean, it was a little while ago. From 1 o'clock till about 4:30, you would come in, you would eat dinner, and then we were right out the door, and we would
Yeah.
go up to the park, and there would be a massive neighborhood football game. That
That's so
that's
cool. And that's and I don't. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. We always talk about the magic of things kind of fading and then living vicariously through your kids, which I'm really looking forward to. Now, my daughter is being able to see that magic through her eyes.
Mhm.
Um, but I also feel like we've lost a lot of it. So my favorite thing was just trick or treating, because that's something that doesn't really, I don't want to say doesn't really happen as much anymore. When I was a kid, we would go trick or treating around the neighborhood, which was always fun. My favorite memory was there was a we knocked on a door and it opened. It was a bunch of college kids having a party. They didn't really have candy, but they had bags of chips, like the little like Dorito bag and stuff. So they went and found us like
Mhm.
chips and stuff, and stuff like that, going around with my parents, my brother, and just going door to door, and then seeing other people do it. Like you're seeing groups, like you're talking about groups of 10 to 15 people just going around, laughing, having a good time. Kind of like Netflix, the Hoobie Doobies Halloween with Adam Sandler, where they're all out in Salem.
Mhm.
That's what I miss. That's what my childhood Halloween experience was like. Or we would go to, there was always a church on the corner, and they would always have like a huge like Halloween festival. So you go in there, they got like rides, they got like bobbing for apples, face painting, all that sort of stuff. And then on top of that, candy, Halloween contest. You'd see your friends there. And so that kind of along the same lines, I miss the social aspect. That was my favorite thing with the parties. Like if you weren't doing the church thing, your friend was having a trick or treat thing, and you'd go trick or treating with them or with your family. Um, and I don't know if that's changed just because I'm older. Because obviously I don't trick or treat because I think I'd get a weird look if I said, "Hey, trick or treat, I'm Shrek. Give me your candy." Um, which now when I have a kid, I can sneak the extra candy with her.
Yep.
um,
Yeah,
but
make out like a bandit.
yeah, be like, see you later. It's not my daughter, and start running. But with nowadays, and maybe it's because I don't trick or treat, I thoroughly enjoy handing out candy because, like I said, I'm living vicariously through them because I'm remembering that when I was a kid. But I don't see as much, now the weather here is a little more volatile, in terms of like how cold it gets and it rainy, kind of like maybe in Pennsylvania. But it's more so parents driving up, kids getting out, getting candy, going back, getting in the car. And there is a reason to that. One, it's safety. It's definitely not as safe now, I feel like, for kids to be out by themselves or walking around, whether it be traffic, or like our neighborhood's lit okay, but it's probably there's some blind corners in here. Um, so I think that's part of it too. Or also predators. I'd feel safer with my kid if I wasn't able to walk with them to just drop 'em off real quick, get candy, and come back. The car type of deal as well. So I can kind of understand that. And also, not every house um hands out candy. In my old neighborhood, there was a handful of houses, but a lot of people just turn off their lights and didn't do anything. And it's one thing to
Well, you
decorate.
see, yeah.
It's one thing to decorate like it's Howling Hill Cemetery. It's our standard setup every single year. We add to it every year. It's out there right now. Ready for the Halloween kids. I still got to set up the ghost light projector though. It's raining right now, so I can't do that. But um, it's one of those things like not everybody does it, but also not everybody hands out candy. And I know there are some religious oppositions to Halloween as a holiday, but which I understand. Okay, that's fine. Um, but there's just in general not as many people participate in Halloween, with handing out candy and such, which is I think where a lot of kind of the lack in magic comes from nowadays. So that's something I truly miss as an adult is the ironically the spirit of Halloween. The fun aspect of it because the kids that do dress up and come knock on the door and we give candy, they're having fun. And I love that from 'em. I love, asking about their costume and so on and so forth. It's awesome. But then there's just a lot of people like you can't go in most neighborhoods now house by house and just hit houses for candy. It's you almost have to hunt for them now. You know what I mean? You have to
Yeah,
look.
you do, and it has become so. In fact, yesterday, funny story yesterday, and I do have a funny,
Mhm.
Halloween story, cemetery story, like actual cemetery story. We were outside, Kim and I were outside, we were doing the leaves and stuff like that, and, uh, the young lady who moved into our old apartment,
Mhm.
she looked and she said, "Are you the couple with the kids?" And I'm like, "Grandkids."
Yeah,
And she
grandkids.
goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Are they gonna be here?" And Kim was going in the house for something,
Mhm.
and she stopped, and I looked because I know I'm working Friday night.
Yeah.
So I turned around and looked at Kim. I was like, "What are the kids doing for Halloween?" So, and this young woman, she was nice enough. She was like, "Well, what I'm doing is I'm just gonna leave. I'm making candy bags now.
Mhm.
I'm leaving them out, but I want to put something for your grandkids aside for
Oh,
them for
that's
Halloween." So that was
that's
very,
that's
very
awesome.
nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So fast forward years later, as some may or may not know, Houdini is actually buried in Brooklyn. Like his gravesite is in Brooklyn.
I did not know that.
And yeah, he's right off used to be called the BQE. It's now the Jackie Robinson Expressway. Is in Brooklyn. So I'll never forget it. The one night I'm working. my typical overnight, and I'm working with this guy, another Tommy, right?
Uh-oh. Tommy and
And
Tommy.
yeah, we literally backed the ambulance. There was nothing doing. The radios were all quiet. Police frequencies were quiet. And you would think, like, on Halloween night, it would be a little bit busy, but it was just a freak thing. We literally backed the ambulance up in my parents' driveway, and the driveway curved around the house.
Yeah.
So from the street, you couldn't see that the truck was actually back there, like this big, huge truck. So we were sitting there and we hung out with my grandmother for a little while, had a cup of coffee with her, and we get going. And Tommy looks at me and goes, "Let's go see the people at Houdini's grave." And I'm like, "Why would there be people at Houdini's grave?" He's like, "You grew up 10 minutes away from Houdini's grave, 15 minutes, and you don't know that they have like a thing with him." I'm like, "Dude, that's in Brooklyn. I grew up in Queens. We're
Yeah.
talking apples and oranges here,
Yeah, completely different.
because
Different borough.
every borough is its own world."
Yeah, exactly.
So we jump on the BQE, we zip down there and we look, and there was probably like 150 people. Now, his tombstone is very visible from the road. It's got spotlights, it's got like gold inlay in it and stuff like that. And there they were waiting. So I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me, right?" And he was like, "No." He goes, "They do this every year." And
Tradition.
yeah, it's a tradition because one of Houdini's escape predictions was that he would be able to escape the grave. So it became a thing for 3 or 4 years. I want to say more so four,
Yeah.
that Tommy and I would swap our schedules and work together on
It's
Halloween
to
night
go do that
and go to Brooklyn and see it.
to see how good.
Because I turned around, I'd tease him and be like, "Dude, I just want to run to the ATM and wave like a $5 bill around." I'd be like, "I got a 5 spot, says he doesn't. Who's
Yeah,
taking?"
who's taking it?
And
Yeah.
make a couple of bucks out of it. But yeah, that became our little thing. But
That's
it
awesome.
was hysterical because people were like, they truly believed he was gonna fulfill that
Escape the
one. And I'm
escape.
like,
I mean, it's Houdini, man.
escape the grave.
Escape artist. Yeah, I don't know
It
about
is.
escaping
And it's funny,
death, but
you know, he's buried in Brooklyn, and yet the Houdini Museum is in Scranton.
I was gonna say,
Like,
I would say that there's no. I didn't know. I knew he was from that area. I didn't know that he was buried in Burke. But yeah, the museum is
mhm,
in Scranton. I knew that. Yeah, so that's kind of odd.
yep.
The two separate things, but that's a pretty cool tradition, and that's the thing that I think that we're missing most, and maybe it's because there's not as much emphasis on traditions as much anymore, or it's more about breaking out of the mold of traditions and being your own person and creating your own.
I think it is too. I mean, you're gonna see things, and I'm not trying to ruin anything for you and your wife, but once the euphoria of being a new parent is never gonna go away.
Hmm.
Um, which is one of the cool things. But you'll notice, you don't think about it at the time,
Yeah.
but when your kids get older and you look back and you realize what became your tradition,
Right.
that
Yeah.
all on
Hmm.
its own. You know what I'm saying? Like something that you guys wanted to do with this, like things we do with the grandchildren,
Right.
that is slowly but surely, you know, 10 years from now is going to be, well, that was our tradition for this,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
pretty cool because it just kind of happens in the background, you know?
Yeah.
No thought into it. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, and like my wife and I texted her while I was on this trip. I was like, "Hey, you want to have a Halloween party with me? You, me, kiddo, and the pups?" And she goes, "I would love that." I'm like, "Yeah, we could order pizza. We're making a hocus pocus fruit punch." And she's got something planned for like making. I think they're like a grave cake. Basically, it's like a dirt pie type thing. For
I
us
love
to
that.
yeah. So, and I'm like, you know what? I love this because that is something I missed because I always get nostalgic around this time. I'm like, I miss this. I talk about, the trick or treating, and I'm like, we need to do something because we're both going to be home, and I don't want to just sit around watching Halloween movies necessarily. Let's have a party. It's just going to be us, but let's have something, And so that's what we're planning on doing at Halloween. I'm so excited to be home. I wasn't home last year because I was at training for upgrade training,
Yep.
unfortunately. So that sucked. I mean, if I have to work, I have to work it, but thoroughly enjoy being home for Halloween. And actually, I got
That's the way
Thanksgiving
there
off
is.
next year or next month too. So I'm gonna see if I can get all the holidays off this year, which would be really nice.
I am on. Yep. I already know for a fact I'm off Thanksgiving Day, even though we open late,
Hmm.
but I'm off Thanksgiving Day, and I'm off Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, but we don't do anything
Yeah,
on
I
New
don't do
Year's
it.
Day.
Yeah, I just stay home. Yeah, New Year's
So
Day.
I just go to work and get that overtime. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So, well, that was a good discussion, Tommy. That was really good, especially for the first one back after 6 months or so. So that'll definitely be
Yeah,
good.
that was really enjoyable. That was a lot of fun.
That was. It was a good
That was a lot of
episode
fun.
too. Good episode. We're hitting the hour, probably with the introduction, probably an hour and a half mark for the episode, which is awesome. So thank you all for watching the Torque and Thrust Talk Show, episode number 40. Choose your poison. Our next live episode will be Wednesday. It will be announced. I'll put a reminder out on TikTok, but it'll be the following Wednesday, and we're gonna be doing Wednesdays next month. To kind of keep it consistent, and then we'll decide based off my schedule in December what we're doing, but keep that announcement rolling. But definitely keep a lookout. Follow us on Twitch. We have a dedicated Torque and Thrust Talk Show on Twitch, as well as on YouTube and TikTok. You can just type in Torque and Thrust Talk Show. It should pop up. You can also follow Tommy and I separately on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch as well, both under our standard handles, which Tommy is at Level Flight Simulations, and I'm at Captain Bill Official. Feel free to reach out to us on there if you have any ideas about the show or any content you want to see. But next week, we should be doing a reaction video, is what we should start the month off in November, and then follow our new structure from there. So on behalf
Yes.
of the Torque and Thrust Talk Show, folks, everybody have a safe and happy Halloween. I am Bill.
I am Tommy. Happy Halloween.
And we will see you next week on the next live Torque and Thrust Talk Show. See ya!
In the sky, the engines roar. On the ground, the wheels explore. From the cockpit to the open road, stories of the brave unfold.